Pretty looking people, but I can tell you people, they were the devil's children.
Greetings from Castle Goring from Mickey, Aurora, and from me. The very first thing I would like to do is, on behalf of Mickey and Aurora, announce that we are having, in aid of Care for Veterans, the Castle Goring Summer Ball on Saturday the 5th of July, and I am going to post an invitation. Well, Sean is going to post the invitation, to be more accurate, and whoever would like to attend is more than welcome to attend. There is a suggested minimum donation, but it doesn't have to be stuck to the minimum, and if you need it to be at the minimum, that's fine too. Hopefully, some of you will come, and hopefully you will enjoy it. I have to say, I have enjoyed it, and so has everyone else, and so has Care for Veterans, so we are having it again this year. So last year was actually really rather good, if I say so myself. And the year before, which was the first of the balls, which was done for the King's coronation, was actually lovely as well. So without further ado, I will now plunge in to get to the nitty-gritty, because we have a lot of very entertaining nitty-gritty to cover today. Sandra Davies says, "What a cynic you are, Lady C, naughty me," implying that the Meg would use the King's visit to Italy to overshadow her podcast, as all the sugars know and are shouting from the rooftops that it's the King who timed his visit deliberately to overshadow Princess Meghan. They obviously have no idea just how far in advance the royal timetable is arranged. Insert eye roll emoji here. Well, royal diaries are done twice a year, 6 months in advance. So that also clears up the mystery as to how Harry and Meghan can know with such accuracy what is coming up and how they need to use it as the catapult with which they avail themselves as they fling themselves into the stratosphere with all the attention they lust after. Marilyn Wade says, "Do you know Harry staged an incident in court where his people rushed him out of court after a fan yelled support for him? He was caught on video looking for her afterwards. There are also must be videos or photographs, the word is missing, of the two together earlier, and I believe she is a paid Sussex Squad member, one Meghan has thanked, and there are photographs of Harry and her together at various events. Oh, isn't it wonderful how Harry is so endangered by his fan that he actually had to be escorted out of court? Do you think he was in danger of being spittled to death? Because she was quite a distance away from him. They make a mockery of everything and everyone, and they think we're all so dumb that we're not going to see what's going on. It is truly remarkable that Harry now believes that we should believe all the rubbish that Meghan comes up with he used to come up with rubbish because he used to spot paparazzi behind trees that didn't exist. This was before Meghan. But she comes up with the most elaborate rubbish that we are all supposed to believe. And he is now faithfully following her lead in expecting us to believe all sorts of rubbish that they come up with. The cack-handedness, the puerility, the actual childishness of it all is what really gets me, because I have to say, I simply cannot understand how anybody who's supposedly intelligent and not drug-addled would think that people are going to believe lies just because they come out of idiots' mouths. Oh, sorry, intelligent people's mouths. However, I am not saying for legal reasons that Harry himself orchestrated the attendance of that woman in court. But I am saying that she has definitely been photographed with him, according to the photographs I have seen, all over the world. And let's not forget, Harry and Meghan have both praised the Sussex Squad for their support. Is the judge supposed to, of the three judges, it's actually three judges, are the three judges supposed to think that Harry's life has been endangered because somebody who was patted down thoroughly the way everybody is who enters the High Courts of Justice in the Strand, got up and created a scene, and Harry is ushered out by his security, the same security that presumably has seen that woman on many other occasions. Just ridiculous. But what is really interesting to me is what I have been told privately, that Meghan has been going around boasting that she's evidently ecstatic. She has Harry totally on side with all of her plots and schemes. She is firmly convinced that she is heading towards a billionaire status because of the great success of the launch of As Ever, her line. She and he have come up with the idea that if they trump the royal family in terms of attention at every occasion that they can possibly come up with, Ted Sarandos will be more inclined to continue the partnership in quotes. Because remember, Meghan announced that she is partners with Netflix. Netflix is honoured to have her as a partner. So you have all of that going on, and they have quite clearly, calculatedly and deliberately coincided the launch of the rubbish that she's selling to coincide with a royal visit overseas, and because they're showing Ted Sarandos that evidently they are the most newsworthy global royal couple. Global is the dead giveaway, of course, because they're always global. And Ted Sarandos is supposed to be very impressed by this, according to Megsy Baby. So I've been told. I've also been told that Netflix is quite determined, if they continue any association with her and Harry, that they're going to nickel and dime them and get them for little or nothing. But the pretense will be that it's going to be a great deal of money. Meghan seems to have forgotten that people who know about business know that when you're in partnerships with someone, you may split the profits, not usually 50-50. Netflix will take the majority, and Meghan will really be like a clearinghouse well, actually, no, Netflix will be like a clearinghouse in terms of, I think it's called something else, but I can't remember the name, where, a consignment. It will basically be a consignment, and she will only get any money on profits. And Meghan may not realize it, but profits are made after, not before or during the creation of something. They're made after sales. No sales, no profits. Oh dear, oh dear. And then, of course, Harry and Meghan decide that while he's over here, he's going to show how important he is by going on a foreign trip. But we'll get to that in a moment. Gwendolyn Knox says, Lady C, I am a day late in listening to you. Now Friday the 11th of April 2025. You have just mentioned Henry wanting publicity. After he left the courts, he flew to Ukraine, a war zone, to visit troops. I have just come back from the supermarket, and every newspaper has his scowling face across the front page, plus Hello Magazine. I am disgusted with our British media again. What should be on the front pages? State visit by our king to Italy. But William and George got almost as much publicity when they went on a discreet visit to look at a football match, if you recall. I make that point for what it's worth. Well, a state visit of the monarch is not going to make front page news. Well, let me rephrase that. It's not going to be the lead story on the front page unless something happens. Something that's newsworthy is something that is out of the ordinary. Harry coming to the United Kingdom to show up at court while he's suing his father and his father's Home Office and his father's government for something is newsworthy. Going to Ukraine is newsworthy, especially after he has been in the United Kingdom, stating that he needs security for himself and his family. Otherwise, he's not safe. It's not safe for him to come to the United Kingdom. Although he manages to get in, nobody knows. Nobody pays a blind bit of notice to him. Nobody knows that he's here until he makes himself visible and announces it. But he's endangered in the United Kingdom. He's in no danger whatsoever, of course, when he is in Kiev, in a war zone. Absolutely no danger whatsoever. Nor was he in danger when he was in Colombia, which of course is a producer and distributor of some of Harry and Meghan's favorite substances. And nor has he ever been in danger when he was in Nigeria, which is one of the criminal capitals of all, countries of all time. Nor was he in danger when he was in Jamaica, which again in Kingston has a pretty high murder rate. and Harry and Meghan were roundly abused in Jamaica, and there were also untoward comments made about them in Nigeria and in Colombia. But no danger to them there. Great danger to them here, and certainly no danger to them in Kiev. I mean, and he thinks that everybody is as dumb as he is, or as deluded as he is, or as out of touch with reality as he and Meghan are. But her game plan is paying off. She is getting attention. It may be negative attention, he may be getting negative attention, but they're getting attention. And on the back of that, they are hoping that Ted Sarandos will be able to convince all the people in Netflix who don't want to have anything more to do with them that it is desirable to extend their contract, albeit at a massively reduced rate. And in any event, it was never worth $120 million. I just make that point for what it's worth. That $120 million is as real as the 12 million pounds or dollars that Virginia Giuffre is supposed to have got from Prince Andrew, which she didn't. She got a 6-figure settlement and no costs paid. So she would have been out of pocket, but for the fact that David Boys was on a pro bono. And the reason why he was on a pro bono was because he set up the whole thing. But we won't go there. Maria Nichols says, who gives Meghan and Harry information from the palace? They would need to know well in advance to plan their tricks. Is someone feeding them information? No. The system is really simple. Diaries are done 6 months in advance, and then the events are published beforehand. All Harry and Meghan need is to discover what the diaries say, and it's not that difficult to discover what the diaries say, incidentally. So is somebody at the palace giving them information? I think they're getting a bit of advance information from someone. Yes, I do. But the palace at a certain level is like a sieve, and servants, whether disaffected or just needing a little bit more money, supplement their income by tipping off the press. And I'm sure somebody might well have figured out that a reliable conduit would be appreciated by people in California. Let's leave it at that. Daisy says, our royal family has been kept in the background too long. Who has paid for Harry to go to the Ukraine? I am sure it's not out of his pocket. Oh, Harry wouldn't have been that stupid. Oh no. Once he knew he was going to be coming to the United Kingdom, he simply got in touch with Invictus, because he has been in touch with Invictus before, and Ukrainian representatives have been in touch with him. And he has a standing invitation to go to all of the places where Invictus plays out at. And he has availed himself of that standing invitation. which is very astute of him, one could say, actually really rather sensible. Wouldn't you have said? So it was all very carefully calculated, let's put it that way, so that he would be able to get more publicity for him, and so for him and for Meghan to be able to impress Ted Sarandos and Netflix with how newsworthy they are as a couple together and as a couple apart. Good thinking, actually. Meghan is not stupid in all respects, like many arrogant, overly narcissistic people. She does many very stupid things because she doesn't have sufficient empathy, modesty, discernment, or self-analysis to understand that everything she does isn't all right. And so they make huge mistakes, but that doesn't mean she's not calculating and devious and manipulative, because she certainly is. So let's give credit where it's due. Blue Sky Eyes says, in Harry's book, he describes some details of Lily's birth and their return home. No indication whatsoever of any issues. No, that's right. None. Absolutely none. But postpartum pre-eclampsia can show up days after a birth. What is rather more telling is what Tears and BJs noted, which is Serena Williams talked about her pregnancy-related blood clots on archetypes. Meghan oddly said nothing about her own eclampsia crisis, and instead told a highly dramatized story about a faulty space heater. That would have been in South Africa. Remember when they went to the housing unit, the sort of slum that they had to hovel in while they were in South Africa staying at the ambassador's residence. Actually, I think he's the British High Commissioner, because I think South Africa is back in the Commonwealth, so he's a High Commissioner. And yes, she had all, but let me continue. Her declared pregnancy issues include an intention to self-delete, a miscarriage, and postnatal eclampsia. To me, this recalls serial tragedies found in a Charlotte Bronte novel, Thoughts and Prayers If True. Well, I think we can safely save our prayers for Meghan's physical safety, and instead we can redirect them to our sanity and the fact that it's being taxed by all this rubbish. I'm actually going to make a point about Whitney Wolfe Herd, who my accounting genius has been in touch with me about Whitney Wolfe Herd. Remember? Now, she definitely did suffer from postpartum pre-eclampsia, which doubtless is where competitive Meghan got the idea that she too needed to suffer from postpartum pre-eclampsia. And her reaction was not that of someone who has suffered from post-partum pre-eclampsia. It's a very serious condition. Sophie Wessex, now the Duchess of Edinburgh, she suffered from pre-eclampsia, and she nearly died. And of course, Catherine has suffered from morning sickness very severely. So I suppose Meghan was just waiting for the opportunity, and it was provided to her by Whitney Wolfe Herd. Now, Whitney Wolfe Herd is a very interesting case, and I'm going to read out to you what my accounting genius says. I have checked to see how successful the company founded by the Markle woman's guest has been. It was launched at $75.45 and has consistently fallen until it has declined to $3.86 at the close of trading Thursday, the 10th of April. She, that is Whitney Wolfe Herd, talked about writing herself a letter when the stock market was at its lowest. Well, over the last 2 years, she must have been writing such a letter almost every day. Everyone investing their savings on the stock market's first day of public share trading in February 2021 would find they had lost $94.88 out of every $100. Then, if the launch in 2021 made Whitney Wolfe Herd a billionaire, it did, according to the Financial Times, then she is now a mere $50 million millionaire. Would you take guidance from such a brilliant success? Then, he says, the history of Bumble is extremely revealing. Wolfe Herd brought in a partner early on, Andrew Andreev, more on him later. He took 79% of the company, leaving Wolfe Herd with 20%. This was in 2014. The business flourished, and in 2019 or thereabouts, Blackstone Incorporated bought into the business when it was valued at over $3 billion. When it was floated on the Nasdaq stock exchange, it was valued at over $7 billion. And this is where the story, in quotation marks, arises that Wolfe Herd was therefore a billionaire, since 20% of $7 billion is $1.4 billion. That sort of schoolboy arithmetic is popular in the MSM, since it is circulated by PR Flax and the MSM staff who write up the PR releases know no better. In fact, when there is such a flotation, the founders almost always diminish their shareholdings in their businesses. They cash some shares in, and their overall percentage holdings in the business are therefore substantially reduced by the incoming new shareholders. What has happened since 2021, when the business was floated on Nasdaq with the offering of shares to the public, is that the valuation of the business has fallen from $7 billion to just over $1 billion. Of that $1 billion, Wolfe Herd will probably now control much less than 20%. The reason that the decline in share price is not the same as the decline in the overall valuation is that valuation bases change and shares shares trade at with premium to valuation or discounts. However the figures are worked out, the conclusion is obvious. Wolfe Herd was only ever a momentary billionaire. She is now a prosperous millionaire, but her record shows initial success through a lot of hype, a successful sale to a large outside firm which paid too much for its share in the Bumble business, and for the ordinary mainstream investor, the last 4 years have been a disaster. How fitting that the Markle woman chooses Wolfe Herd as her first guest to perform 48 minutes of hyperbolated flattery of her. If I wanted to devise a satire which would ridicule both participants equally, I could not have come up with anything better than this. Andrew Andreev is a London-based, Russian-born inventor of dating apps and has done well out of them. He starts them, develops them, and sells them. According to a 2018 Forbes investigation, 13 employees reported a toxic culture at Badoo's London headquarters. This included circulation of pornography of an employee and a culture of parties with ladies of the night, since this is YouTube, and illegal drug consumption, photos of which were shared via internal emails. Forbes accused Andreev of knowledge of the events via email, but not participation in them. Additionally, further females were sexually harassed and assaulted, and described tolerating this to achieve career progression. Forbes additionally reported that parts of this culture were beginning to change, including diversity and inclusion training and cessation of naming technical updates after pornography performers. Not quite the sort of person whom the Markle woman wishes publicly to be associated with. Nevertheless, he has committed substantial funds to the restoration of Notre Dame in Paris. So, as one might say, a bit of a curate's egg. So there we have it. Whitney Herd is also a smoke and mirrors girl. Oh, she's made money. She comes from money. She's married money. She's made money. But she and Megsy Baby seem to be two peas of a pod in terms of exaggeration and also accusations, because she evidently sued Tinder, which was her original nest egg, because she got a settlement which she then ploughed into what ultimately became Bumble. These people that wangle their ways around, it's just so instructive. And another one who is wangling her way around and has done it so far very successfully has been a certain Blake Lively, who I have had somebody show me Blake Lively in an interview in June 2024, long after her accusations that she would come out with several months down the line, stating about Justin Baldoni and herself. and I'm going to quote, "Are we too connected? Are we too vibing?" She is describing the performance on film that she then objected to. So she has subsequently said that she too was harassed. However, in June, long after the scene had been shot, she was asking everybody, basically, have I given myself away? Do you think that my husband's observations that I was really too into it with Justin, and that we were vibing too greatly, do you think that's accurate or not? So which is it, Blake? Were you too connected and too vibing? How can you be too connected and too vibing with somebody that you then say the same situation warranted you making a complaint of harassment? I mean, these women are an absolute disgrace in terms of womanhood. Whatever happened to a virtuous woman is beyond the price of rubies. Small Wonder says, Lady C, I wonder what you know of Harry's bawdy and rowdy past. I have heard that the palace was tied in knots trying to keep him out of trouble when he seemed to wallow in it. I'm now thinking they truly deserve each other. All the years his family made excuses for him and kept him away from trouble. Now he is with Megxit. He's back in the heart of it. And it seems ironic he thinks the British public should continue to bail him out. What say you? Well, he thinks because he was born the second son of somebody who would be a king, that he deserves what he requires, notwithstanding the fact that his aunt and uncle, who are working members of the royal family, not only deserve it, but don't get it, which is full-time security. Yes, his reputation was cleaned up considerably, and in fairness to him, he did play his part in being hail fellow, well met and very jocular, and could be very engaging and very warm, and sometimes even with the press, ironically enough. So he is an ingrate, and he is contemptible, in my opinion. Sarah Evans says, why can't Prince Charles insist that Meghan and Harry bring the kids over to verify their birthright DNA, or if they don't, Prince Charles can assume that they are not their children and remove their titles and take them out of the line of succession. Enjoy your YouTubes, Lady C, along with your fur babies. Thank you. Well, the king, first of all, may I say, DNA wouldn't cut the mustard necessarily, because if children are by surrogates and they are not carried by the lawful wife, even though the biological makeup is egg from wife, sperm from husband, the child is still illegitimate in British eyes and therefore would not qualify. So it's not enough that the child be of Meghan's body, meaning eggs, but that it be popped out of her body, the body that she has carried it in. And I am afraid that the photographic evidence is so condemnatory of her claims to have carried Archie that unless she can come up with medical proof that all the other royals have had to come up with, I'm afraid nobody has to believe her over their eyes, let's put it, and their reasonable observations as a result of the way that baby bump performed. So, but once, and I've said this before, so I'm going to say it and quickly get off this. Once a lawful birth certificate is issued stating that a child is legitimate, in the eyes of the law, thereafter it is legitimate until it is delegitimized. There have been cases of delegitimization. The late Marquis of Londonderry's putative first son, who was Viscount Castlereagh, was the product of his wife Nicolette's affair with the singer Georgie Fame. And when this came to light, the child was delegitimized, and the present Marquis of Londonderry is his second official son, but first, in reality, natural born son by his second wife, Doreen Wells the ballerina, and is the present Marquis of Londonderry. So there are precedents, but it requires an admission from someone that the birth certificate was actually falsely entered into. So let's leave it at that for the moment. And we will end with Tanya Fabregas, who says, I have just sent an email to Peter, or PETA, the PETA, the animal rights, in France, and to the National Police in France. I used Google Translate as a template, like you suggested. I hope many more members do the same. I am reading that out because I hope you do as well. I hope as many people as can and as are inclined to do so will actually get in touch with PETA, or Peter, whichever it's pronounced, or the French police, your French consulate or embassy, asking that it be forwarded on as a complaint, or you could actually write to President Macron at the Élysée Palace in France. That's what you could do as well. Stephane Guerlain is on tape threatening to kill Christina Krog's horses. He can't deny it. He's been on tape, and it is a criminal act. And of course, as I said before, he's going to be protected because the mainstream media are not going to be addressing this. Why would they address it? Because to address it might be to fall foul of Bernard Arnault and LVMH, which is a vast company covering practically most of the prestigious luxury brands in France. Very powerful. Isn't it a pity that power doesn't always equate to doing the right thing? Because I have to tell you, if I were Bernard Arnault, I would take steps immediately to bring what is happening at La Vallée with Stephane Guerlain, Christina Krog, and his father, to bring it to an absolute halt and to make sure that goodness prevails over financial expediency. And on that note, I'll say thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please keep the questions and comments coming in so I will know what you would like us to be speaking about. Thank you so much. Take good care and Godspeed. And if you have truly enjoyed this, would you care to like, share, subscribe, and press the notification bell? Thank you so much. Bye-bye.